Violent depictions of women being beaten, raped, and run over by cars.
Gamergate is a war on women in this industry.
After you first attacked male gamers for enjoying looking at big-breasted women with tiny armor that barely covers their nipples.
In August of 2014, a programmer named Aaron Joney published a lengthy blog post about his ex-girlfriend, indie game developer Zoe Quinn. The post falsely implied Quinn had traded sexual favors for a favorable review of her game, Depression Quest. The accusation was false. Joney later admitted he had no evidence, but it didn't matter. Within days, coordinated harassment targeting Quinn erupted across 4chan, Reddit, and IRC channels. Quinn's home address was posted. Rape and death threats flooded her inbox. She fled her home. What followed became known as Gamergate. For decades, video games had been understood as a male space, specifically made for white, heterosexual, and adolescent players. The industry had marketed to that demographic, creating a sense of ownership. By 2014, that was changing. Feminist critics like Anita Sarkeesian were gaining mainstream attention for analyzing sexism in game design. Developers from outside the traditional demographic were making and publishing games. Gaming journalism was covering representation and diversity as legitimate cultural topics. To a significant subset of the existing gaming community, this expansion felt more like an invasion, like a hostile takeover of the one cultural space they felt was still theirs.
And you really think about this, looking at old video game ads, everything's always like a young boy. And that's not to say anybody can't game. I'm just saying if you grew up with that, and also you're hanging out on 4chan where you think women and minorities are the problem, and then all of a sudden you're like, I knew that a woman game developer couldn't have good reviews of her game, probably because she sucked someone off. Look what her boyfriend wrote. It's like, well, but she didn't suck anyone off.
And now her life's ruined because you've doxed her and said horrible things.
Truly. And I think we did not, and by we, I mean me as an average female internet user at the time, I didn't really appreciate how bad it was, kind of in general. And listening to Zoe's story and Sarkeesian, all of them who were targeted merely for, like you said, doing their jobs. They didn't know what else to do other than, you know, flee from the internet, change their houses, change their addresses and all that. Now, hearing these things, we would be like, we got to send the police after every one of those little shits that's putting their address on the internet.
The games produced, the people playing the games, the avatars you design in the games, like all of it is for the male gaze. So then you have women coming on the scene, and what these dumb incels don't even realize is like women have been here the whole time.
Yeah.
They were just using different names and stuff because they knew that this would happen. And then they decide, you know what? It's 2014. Maybe times have changed. The fact that these assholes thought it was always there just shows how stupid they are, you know?
Yeah, and it is this feeling of equity. If you are in a supremacist position, equity to you seems like you're losing something.
Yeah.
You know, because they're like,
Power.
but we're always the stars of the game. It's always a white man star in the game. And now you people are coming in and changing it. Now it's just like a woman of Asian descent is the lead character in a game. And you're like, yeah, it's probably a fucking awesome game. Shut up, take 5 seconds and play it. But it's that feeling of when you are in this position of privilege, any shift towards equity, you just are like, oh my, they took our games. And you're
They're
like,
taking
oh,
our rights. They're taking our freedom.
no one took your games. They're making different, better games. You could also just not play those games.
Yeah, you could also just, shut the fuck up. It was not a coincidence that Gamergate ignited on poll and spread through 4chan. When the harassment grew too intense even for 4chan's moderators, it migrated to 8chan, which had been built specifically to host content that 4chan wouldn't. An early pattern emerged. Each time radicalized communities were deplatformed, they were driven to harder-edged alternatives.
Just goes to show you, you know, you kick Nick Fuentes off of YouTube and he has, 50,000 viewers on Rumble every night.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's Rumble? A racist YouTube. Like, someone will just make a racist version of your website. What's Truth Social? Even more racist X. Like, how is that possible? But I think, as we're about to learn, this is one of those where I think there probably were a good number of people that felt that way, but they weren't as many and plentiful as were created to feel that way. And they were tapped on the shoulder by this piece of shit we're about to introduce you all to. We had a couple of upset people, and now we've got a riot on our hands because this guy came in with a megaphone and started screaming.
Right-wing journalist Milo Yiannopoulos was recruited by news website Breitbart and its executive chairman, Steve Bannon, specifically to cultivate the Gamergate demographic. Milo became the movement's most prominent mainstream amplifier. He framed the harassment as a series of principled consumer complaints about journalistic ethics, rather than a white male revolt. Milo even embedded himself directly in Gamergate's coordination networks, becoming an insider. Through Breitbart, Milo introduced the movement's grievances to an audience far beyond gaming culture.
And he really tried to write them almost like they were cultural commentary essays of like, I'm just analyzing. By the way, he's getting paid specifically to manipulate you fucking dummies. So Steve Bannon, as we'll hear, discovers like, this is what I'm fixing to do. Hey, Milo, if I gave you enough money, would you write these articles? And he's like, yes, I would love to write whatever you want. And it also helps that Milo is a openly gay man. He would be like, oh, I love diversity. Just because you gay does not mean that you're one of us. Like, does not mean that you care about the cause. And in this case, money, I think, outweighed anything that he wanted to do, as well as perhaps power and I think proximity to power.
Bannon had recognized the opportunity in gaming years before Gamergate ignited. His earlier experience running an online gold farming operation in World of Warcraft had introduced him to the organizing power of anonymous young men online. When Gamergate erupted, Bannon knew exactly what he was looking at. He told journalist Joshua Green in the 2017 book Devil's Bargain,
These guys, these rootless white males, they had monster power. I realized Milo could connect with these kids right away. You can activate that army. They come in through Gamergate or whatever and get turned on to politics and Trump.
In Bannon's design, Breitbart became the funnel, serving as a pipeline to convert gaming culture resentment into conservative political identity. Milo served as the bridge, and Trump was the destination.
You always respect the grift when it's well done, and this is a smart man. Steve Bannon is a piece of shit, certainly, but you cannot argue that he is not savvy, smart, to take advantage, to see, hey, this World of Warcraft, oh, I can squeeze some pennies out of these nerds.
Yeah.
And the same with this of, well, I really don't care what they look like, but if it's a lot of angry white people, men, and I could whip them all up. What is this gamer thing? Yeah, right about that. Who cares? But slip a lot of stuff in there about woke, right? About diversity, how they're trying to take our jobs. He's always thinking like 5 years ahead.
I see that man and immediately have a visceral reaction. You know, you're just like, ugh. He's filled with darkness. Gamergate gradually dissipated through 2015. Overall, the movement's energy was absorbed into the alt-right political ecosystem that would coalesce around Trump's 2016 campaign. The people who spent 2 years coordinating harassment campaigns and IRC channels and 4chan threads became more radicalized as they waited for their next cause. You know, a lot of people brush it off like, I don't know, they're white men. They've had the world for 400 years. Let them figure it out. Okay, that is a take you could take. Or we could all figure it out together, because figuring that out is going to help all of us, not just the white men. And I get that we all have a bit of a sour taste in our mouth when we think about white men. And it's become almost like a trope now. However, there is a reason that a huge block of white young males felt disconnected and like they didn't belong anywhere. And that's really a fascinating case study. And just because they're men doesn't mean it shouldn't be studied or we should just like, well, they deserve it type of attitude. They weren't given the foundation to build a healthy and non-toxic lifestyle upon. And that goes back to generational trauma and just generations of racism, misogyny, all of these things that have to be broken down. And who's gonna break that down? The matriarchy.
It's us. Each one reach one. We need to each sponsor a white man in our life for just the price of a cup of coffee. You could buy him a cup of coffee and go, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. Where did it all go wrong? If you enjoyed this, you'll love our full podcast episodes. You can find the full episode linked in the description below. YouTube thinks you'll love this one next. And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button so you never miss a new clip.